Yes.
Yeah. Because we had a demo session in that we went in a very high level about business analysis planning. So this time we will go into the details of that. Yeah, we in the original presentation we did talk about the stakeholders, and in any project it is very critical you identify the stakeholders initially, and based on the project you may be given who are the stakeholders, or some cases you may have to find from your own side who are the stakeholders. So we will see some of the tools that we normally apply, how to identify a stakeholder. And before going to that tool, we need to see how you identify a stakeholder in a project. Suppose you are working on a project, there may be people for a system in Walmart. So in that case, suppose you want to build a system, information technology system, then first of all, Walmart will say to you that what kind of expectation from that system. That's one of the stakeholders, and apart from that, that may be Walmart management or maybe Walmart IT team. And apart from that, you will have another set of people called users who may interact with your proposed system, so that you get the feedback from them on what's their expectations, what are the functionalities they require, or how they want the navigation, or how they want each of the features to be in. All these things you will get from the users. And there will be some other partners, like say for example it may be a logistic partner. Suppose your system need to talk with them, then you need to have some kind of standards which you need to speak to them, and you need to get the standards from them and see that you build the system according to that standards. So at a very high level, when you talk about stakeholders, you need to know who are the owners, I mean who financially fund your project, so that they are able to utilize the outcome. And apart from that, you also need to know who are the components, or who are the people who you may interact, or there is a chance that you may get to interact. And this part is very critical, because if you miss any of the parties in the second item, like who are supposed who you may interact, then at one point of stage you may realize that the project is not up to the mark. Because say for example, you are building the system and you missed to consult one of the partner, then at a later stage of project, if the partner comes with some particular requirement, then you may find that you need to modify your system, and it will add to your cost, and it will add to your efforts of testing and all other aspects. So at a very high level, you need to have to be informed about all these parties. And whenever you look for stakeholders, you always need to see whether they are responsible. I mean, like, are they the peer persons who give some kind of information which you need to get signed off? Because when you in BA world, when you say signed off, that means when you present some of the informations, and one of the stakeholders gives his opinion, saying that okay, I am comfortable with this, and you can go ahead and work on the project. So that's kind of confirmation, and this is called sign off. And every stage you need to get a sign off, and it's a written sign off, preferably by email, or some cases it may be a physical signature on your document. So it all depends on what kind of environment you are working. Suppose if you are working across stakeholders across multiple geography, in that case you may not be able to get a physical signature, then it will be an email. And these emails or this sign off you need to attach along with your documents. Suppose we consider that you prepare a document to show the workflow. When you say document, it may have a Word document, then you can enclose these sign off emails as an attachment to that, probably in the initial site. And now we will move on to the tool part. we call RACI matrix. So it's a kind of proposition. We identify various parties in the particular project. One is responsible, one is accountable, other is consulted, and other is informed. What is the difference between all these three? One is like one part responsible, maybe the party who gives the formal communication to you, saying that these are the expected items or these are the um, components I'm comfortable with. An accountable party is the person who probably would be financing your project. I mean, any project need to have funds to run it, and this accountable team may be the stakeholder who gives that funds. And another is consultant. As we said, like in a project, you may have various stakeholders. Some may require to give some information to you so that you can work on the project, and some may be like those who are just giving their opinion, or they may be giving you some feedback which may not impact your project directly, but without them you cannot proceed the project. So it's like you're consulting that kind of people, so that's called consultant. And informed. And in any project, you may have some kind of people who you need to whom you need to keep informed about your activities. It may be like some senior management, or it may be some allied systems. So these are the people who are called informed. So you need to categorize your stakeholders into these three, and you have to ensure that you send out proper communication at each stage of your project to this category of people. And any lapses in that may impact your project very severely. So we'll also see into the RACI metrics a bit detailed. Okay. Okay. This you can see one of the RACI metrics which I picked from Google. So in this you have a project which you have various stages, and you have various parties to that project. So in this case you have a project sponsor, and then you have business analyst, and you have project manager, you have technical architect, and application developer. So all these parties, the role gets changed when during each phase of the project, because in some phase they may be the persons who give some kind of approval, and in some case they may be the persons who give their sign off, and they are really accountable for what components you deliver. So in this project you have three stages. One is manage sales, and one is assess jobs, and initiate project. So you can see that at each stage what are the variations of the stakeholders. One is if you see in the project sponsor, it will be like in the initial stages consultant, and business analyst obviously the person who drives the activities, and project manager is accountable. When you say project manager is accountable, he is primarily responsible for ensuring your project done within the finance limits, because when your finance limits exceeds that, your project also gets impacted. And we also introduce a new term called change request, because when you start a project, you will get normally a request. We say that initial request for project, or IR. That's the stage where your project sponsor or your stakeholder will give you a document saying that these are my expectations from the system. It's also known as business requirement document. So basically it's a document where it will have information on what are the expectations of the proposed system or proposed project. And why I'm saying proposed project or proposed system, because not all cases you may have a real system being developed. Some cases it may be process improvement. So when it's a process improvement, it probably could be a project. And when it's a new system development or enhancement to an existing system, probably you will get an information technology system. So this you need to be very careful, because not all your project will have some IT systems, even though when you are working on IT project, it may be a process improvement or it could be a real some kind of system being developed based on your analysis. So this has to be very careful, and you need to identify what is the expectation based on the project. And in the business requirement document, probably you will have some information of who are the person who has returned the document, and who are the person who has reviewed the document, and who are the persons who are giving the sign off. And also you may have information of audience of the document. Audience means probably it may be the persons who are in the category of informed. And whenever a business requirement document is published, it will go through various iterations. That means they may have consulting workshops with various stakeholders, and they may get inputs, and all these inputs will be recorded, and subsequent action will be taken, whether you need to update the BRD to accommodate that. And based on this consideration, you will update the document, and every updations will have version information. So when you work on any document, you need to always have a version information, like when your document going through first iteration, second iteration, your version gets changed. What the terminology we use in BA normally is that when you have the first version, which is officially published or first officially signed off, that version is normally termed as version 1, 1.0 or version 1. Before that, whatever the draft version, you can probably use 0.01 or 0.11, something like that. So that even if you go through 10-20 times iterations, it looks somewhat logical that your first official version is version 1.0 or version 1. So you can use terminologies like version 0.01 and 0.02, like that. You can go up, or you can use 0.1, 0.11, like that. So you need to know how many versions is likely to be produced as part of your business analysis exercise. So this information you will come to know when you are on a project, because you will know the stakeholders and what kind of feedbacks or what kind of response you get from them. If you expect frequent changes, it's always preferable to use 0.01 so that you have space till 99 iterations. But ensure that your published versions goes and count like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So in between your working versions, when you say working versions, it's like it's an intermediary version where it's sent for review or sent for some comments. So you can use that decimal terminology to track that. And another thing is that whenever you send any document for reviewing or any of these categories, like you have we talked about RACI metrics, where responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Any of these categories will give you comments. So these comments you need to be aware of, and it's always better to have a single place to record these comments. So when you say a single place, it depends on the tools your project team offers. So say for example, if your organization has proprietary tools, you can use that. Or if your organization doesn't have any specific tools, probably you can use some of the open source management tools available in the market for collaboration. When you say collaboration, your stakeholders are spread across geographies, or they may not be physically present at one place. And also, even if they are physically present at one place, you cannot collect all the comments or review feedbacks from them in one single location. So you need to ensure that you have some kind of tool to record such information at a single place. So there are two advantages in having such information at a single place. One is that you need to look at only one place. Another thing is that you can get all the comments, and you can track it by ensuring that whether you have accounted for it or whether you are still under review. And one of the commonly used collaborative tools is like Google Doc. You might be aware of Google Documents. In Google Documents, you have an Excel or a spreadsheet. So that spreadsheet is an example of collaborative tool. You can share that spreadsheet with your stakeholders, and you can provide various columns for providing comments, and your stakeholders will provide the comments, and you can ensure that it's tracked. And I will show you one of the template used for such tracking, and also I can share you the template. And also you need to ensure that based on your project or based on the kind of work you are involved, these templates may vary, because there is no standard template where you can reuse across projects. It depends on the project primarily, and also you need to be aware that you are the prime person who is responsible for the project and who knows all the key components of the project. So you should be in a position to design what all columns you need and what informations you need to track. At a very high level, you need to have information on like what the point they are making comment on, because you need to know where in which part of the document they are referring to. So you need to have some reference keys, and it could be some paragraph reference or topic reference, and you also need to have some kind of line information where on what particular line they are making the comment. And then also you need to have an information column for providing the comments, what is the comment on for that particular section or particular line. And then you need to have a provision for date, on what date they have provided the comment. This is very critical because in case of a dispute, probably you may be able to use this information. And the other one is like there is a column you need to have for providing the feedback, and you also need to have a column to denote who provided that feedback. And if there is a query or clarifications combined in a project, probably you can have some identifiers to denote whether it's a query or it's a clarification or it's a new enhancements or new value addition. So you can have separate values for that. Probably in Excel it's a drop down, or if you have some tools you can use that. Why I'm saying generically a tool, because there are a lot of tools available in the market. Excel is one of the basic one, because everybody will have Microsoft Office in their machine, and most of the staff do have, and it comes with a lesser cost. So that Excel is one of the common tool. Apart from that, based on the organization's capacity, you may have various collaborative tools being used. So I'll show you one of the Excel template that used for tracking the review comments from your stakeholders involved as per this RSCA matrix. You might have seen the kind of version I am using here, because this is a this is a document which goes through various iterations. So I've used review comments and version 0.002. So this is to denote that this is still a work in progress document, and since this particular document I was working on as a standalone, but there are multiple people involved in this particular analysis activity. So I will be using some tool or some repository where I go and copy my information to there, so that it has a consolidated version. Okay. So you can see here there is a document name, and also you need to have one more column for serial number. Why serial number? Because whenever your stakeholder address one of the particular line, you need to have some kind of reference key. So this is say if you say 1, 2 the serial numbers, and then it means that if you are talking to a stakeholder, he may say that in this particular review comments version 1002, I'm referring to item number 2, so that you can directly go to that particular item and see what he is discussing about. And then you find the document name. Why the document name? Because in a project you may have multiple documents being available for review or being available for some considerations. So you need to have a document name so that you can identify that particular item. And then you have a section. As I said, in your particular document you may have some hundreds of sections, so you need to have some reference key to know which particular section this particular query or comment belongs to. And you can provide some section name, so that helps you to track much more quickly, or it's easier to understand where the section belongs or what it contains. And the description. So description is basically the particular line in that document where your stakeholder is having some comment or some query or some clarification. It could be anything. And this is the review comments. This is from stakeholders. So what is the comment they are providing? And you can see that who is providing the comment. There is one column. So in this particular document, I have provided the comment. So that's why you are finding my name. And then you need to have a column to provide response to review comments. Like when you have a comment, you need to close that comment. When you say close, that means like in a project you should not have any outstanding queries at any point of time. But in a practical project you will have outstanding queries, but it's up to you to ensure that the outstanding queries or clarifications do not impact your project. And at any point of time you need to be aware of what are the outstanding items or outstanding clarifications queries in your project. So that's why you need to have this response to review comments, and who is providing the response. So there may be a case that this document is being reviewed by multiple persons, and one of the persons may be responsible for giving comments for one of the lines. So that's why you have a column for response by, who is providing the response to the review comments. And remarks, if you have some particular remarks, specific some key information, you can use that. And then you need to have a column called status. So status primarily will have values like open, closed, on hold, awaiting confirmation, or deferred. It depends on your project. Suppose this Excel belongs to the items which are representing the outstanding requirements. In that case, you can have like open, closed, deferred. That means open means it's still open, now we are included in the project. Closed means it's included in one of the phase of the project. And deferred means it's probably being extended, or it's being deferred for one of the future enhancements. And you can also have one of the column for phase. When you say phase, this is very common. This is a very common word in IT projects. Phase is like your projects may go through multiple iterations. Like say you have your project might be divided into 3 or 5 segments. So they call each segment a phase, or some of the organization call release. So it's up to the organization how they call each of these sections. So the commonly used words are like phase of the project, or release, or it could be like they could also use some custom names for these projects, or they may use code names. So it's up to the organization how it names. And also you need to understand that every organization will have some kind of standards, and in some case you may end up with organizations which do not have these standards. So in that case, it's up to you to establish the standards, and you have to inform all the stakeholders that these are standards you are following. so that they are aware of activities. Is there any queries till now? Hello, Asian, Amar, Shika, is there any queries? Hello, are you able to hear me? Um, okay. Oh, yeah. Shika, sorry. I didn't know that you are muted here. So, do you have any queries?
No, I don't have any queries, Pradeep. But I just want, since you are taking the session, I
Yeah.
am, just observing and thinking in my head that whatever you're teaching me right now, it is
Yeah.
like maybe I can grasp it right now, but until now, unless I will not have a proper hands-on experience, I will not be able to understand how and what needs to be applied where. Because
Okay.
this is like so very generic and it is like so very situational that until and unless I will not have a project in hand, you know.
Yeah, because why it's very critical, because you only have a set of guidelines at a very high level. So, and your guidelines is only for your primary reference, and on based on a project that you need to build that platform. I mean, what kind of documents you need to arrive at. So that's how the project goes. So it's not like you have a set of documents, like say 1 to 10 documents. These 10 documents need to be part of every project. It's not like that. So it may be like these 10 documents may exist for some projects. These 10 projects may not exist for some projects. And also in business analysis itself, you have various type of analysis. The new trend is called agile analysis, agile business methodology. So in agile
Yes.
methodology, it's like you have all the stakeholders or all the key persons sitting around one particular table, and they'll be just discussing, just like how you chit chat in colleges. So they'll be discussing things, and they'll be noting down what are the things to do, and then they'll be working on that. And they'll be having some backlogs, like saying what all things they are keeping it aside so that they can take it on a future day. And every day they come and have a discussion like what they want to do on that particular day, and what is the status of the previous day, and what's going to be in the next day. So that's also there. So in that kind of project, you may not have any kind of documents. It will be just like uh, 3% of all the stakeholders sitting aside, and if there is any query, you may be just asking him directly, and he will be saying yes or no, and you will be accommodating that particular one in your project.
Okay. All right.
So that's one of the method. That's agile. And generally, when we talk about this traditional one, that happens more like in a structured projects. Like say when you are working in a company, like big organizations, you may not get the opportunity to have all the stakeholders across the table. Sometimes you may get, but sometimes you may not get that opportunity, or you can say most often don't get that opportunity.
But is it
So
that it differs on the basis of the, on the project, how big or small is the project? Because if this project is too big and it involves a lot of stakeholders, then maybe the documentation would be the right idea. But if it is a small project and there are only 2 or 3 key stakeholders, not more, then maybe then the discussion or what you said, the agile analysis would come in more handy.
Yeah, what you said is correct, because if you have a large number of stakeholders, you can always stick to the document side and other official artifacts. If you are a very small team, 3 or 4 members team, then you cannot do work to produce a lot of documents and then work on the project. So if it's a small team, close-knit team, probably you can take away some of the documentations. But in any case, you have to ensure that your documents are available somewhere, because say, for example, even if it's a small team, the people are dynamic. So you may work on that particular project for some, say, 1 month, and you may move on to some other activities, maybe due to the personal commitments or maybe due to the official commitments. So the new person, when they come in, they should have some place to refer these things, so that he can immediately start, or he can start with minimum delay to support the role which you are playing in that particular project. So in that case, having a set of documentation will help such activities, because even in the smaller organizations, if you can have such artifacts, that will be great, because that will be a value addition to that project, and that will be a value addition to that organization itself.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other queries, Sean? Hello? Amar, Sean, any queries?
No, I don't have any queries as of now.
Okay, okay. So we will proceed to the next details. Okay. Sian, you may type if you have any queries, so that I can see the queries. Okay. And I will also be sharing some of the templates to you, so that may be handy to you in projects. Since I worked on multiple projects, so based on my experience with various projects and stakeholders, I have some standard templates which I try to reuse or build across based on the necessity of the project. And say if you have the comments itself may go through multiple iterations. So in that case, you may have repetition of these columns, like you are seeing one set, and if there are follow-on queries, you may have some additional columns to say review comments 1, 2, 3, response to review comments 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. But always try to ensure that you use some kind of collaborative tools, like say a single place where all your stakeholders can put in their responses, so that you can document, or you can see everything at one place. Yeah, the thing is that if you miss out one of the comments, the responsibility will be on you at one stage. Like the stakeholders may come back saying that you have missed this comment, and that has resulted in so and so impact. And in a project, the first set of requirements that comes is called the initial requirements, or business requirement documents. And say when you started working on that project, and at one stage there are some changes coming into that project, or changes coming to the expectations. So that changes you need to have it officially, because you cannot have over a call, or you cannot have over just a meeting. So they need to send a document called change request. So it's a document where they will say what is the change they are making to the original requirement, and what are the impacts, and what are the benefits, or what it may impact your project. So for example, change request may impact your delivery timelines, or some cases if it's an already existing system, it may involve changes to some of the existing components. So we need to provide analysis for any of the change request. So if it's a new project, totally you are working new, so that you need to check which all components in your project being impacted by this change request, and you need to provide estimate, like say every task needs some kind of time. So if you are preparing one document, say for example some flow charts, any changes happen to your requirement, then you need to have some time to accommodate such changes into your flow chart. And also one more critical thing you need to be aware that whenever changes happen, changes are actually more difficult to accommodate than a new item, because um, when you're working on a new item, you can create artifacts easily because everything is new and it's a totally blank on the output side. You are just creating that. And whenever changes comes, you need to rework all your outputs, I mean your documents or your flow charts, so that will have more time and efforts. So you always have to ensure that whenever you provide estimate, you take into consideration these aspects. When I say estimate, estimate is something like it's kind of time frame by which you will be completing the task. Some cases you are the person who provides such estimate. In that case, you need to know how much time it is going to be taken by you to accommodate that change. Or in some cases, your stakeholder will say this need to be completed in 4 hours or X hours. So in that case, that time is confirmed, or more beyond that time, your stakeholders may not pay for that particular activity. So that's the key information when the stakeholders gives a timeline. And whenever they give a timeline, you need to ensure that the timeline is proper, because say for example you may have a task which takes about 15 hours and if the stakeholders gives 4 hours, you cannot accept that. You need to tell them that this particular task takes this many hours and why it takes that many hours, and you need to arrive at time on a mutually understanding basis. And whenever you are given a change request or any task or any activity, you always need to ask the stakeholders when you expect this activity to be completed. What is the timeline? What is the time frame? And what are the dependencies? Because when you say dependencies in a project, when you are working on one particular piece, there may be other facts which are dependent on your project, your artifacts which you are going to create. So for example, you are working in a Walmart, and say you have some project which is looking at how customer enters the Walmart store, and say if you do not complete that particular activity in a fixed time, probably your customer will be uh, impacted, because he may end up waiting much longer time to enter into the store. So in that case, there is a dependency factor for you. That dependency factor is your customer, and the other dependency factor will be your internal staff, your billing counter, and your support staff. Because when you delay your activity, like if you may cause delay of customers, thereby impact the billing, and the support staff may be impacted because they may not get sufficient time to arrange the logistics. So this is a kind of a dependency in a project. So every project we will be able to find dependencies. So we will be having assignments to identify such dependencies. So one of the assignment for today is that since I'm using the Walmart as an example, because all of you would be aware of Walmart, so it will be pretty easy for you to make some analysis and to come out, because when we move on to the advanced stages of our classes, we will have specific examples to specific IT systems, but at this stage we will have some of the generic ones. So today's assignment is like you may have to identify all the dependencies involved in a billing counter in a Walmart store. When you say dependencies, like what all factors impacts that particular billing activity, including manning. So I will, Mr. Mark will help you with the assignment. I will mail him the details so that you can work on that. Any queries?
Amar,
Any queries, Amar?
Shika, Sean, you have to just unmute yourself now, the mic. Yeah. As if Amar has unmuted.
No,
Pradeep,
Sean
can you
has.
once again repeat it?
Yeah.
Identify all the dependency involved in the billing counter at Walmart.
Yeah, it's like say for example, dependencies because like say in Walmart you see a billing counter where you pay for the items you taken from the store, and you may have some kind of support. So that particular billing counter has some factors which takes into consideration, like how many billing counters need to be available at that particular time, what the speed they need to do, and what are the factors that impacts a particular time. So for example, if you are using a dollar bill, that may take much more time. Suppose if you are using an electronic payment, that may take lesser time. So there are various factors which influences the time that you spend at a billing counter.
Okay.
So these are the factors which are called as dependencies.
Okay.
So as a customer, when you see the billing activity at Walmart, so these are the factors. I'm just saying one example. So there will be a lot of other factors which actually impacts the time you spend at billing counter and you come out of the billing counter after paying for your goods.
Okay.
And in all projects, you should be in a position to know what dependencies are there in that particular project. Because when you say stakeholders, we talked about RACA metrics, and we also talked about various stakeholders. And when you identify the stakeholders, you will also come to know what are the dependencies in your project. Say, for example, you would consider that it's an information technology system. We call it shortly as IT system or IT product. In that system, like your all stakeholders represents various components or various units which your system is talking to. In that case, the changes which is happening at that various units are one of the dependencies, and the standards followed by each unit is one of the dependencies, and probably the time of interactions or the time of availability is one of the dependencies. So this, like, it's up to you to identify these dependencies, and if you miss out any of the dependencies, your project probably will end up in a stage that some unstable activity comes at one of the later stages. So one of the best examples is that you are building a IT system where you want to talk to a bank. Suppose you build your systems and you design your data output and data intake based on your understanding. And finally, when you go to the bank to integrate the system, you realize that your system is talking in a different language from the bank system. Say, for example, the bank's output or intake will be happening in ISO 9000 format. Probably you might have designed in your proprietary format. So that's one of the dependencies. So standards, we also call it as standards. So whenever you design a system or design a project, design in such a way that it has some standards. Try to pick up the international standards wherever possible, so that your surrounding systems can easily follow, and probably what do you say? If in case you are developing a new system or project, if you use this international standards, one of the advantages is that you can easily sell your product, and anybody who buys your product will be able to. Vishnu, would you have to mute your mic, because I think that's yeah, it's fine now. So whenever you use international standards, it helps all the stakeholders to build their systems or interface their systems easily. So any areas you can take your consideration. There are some standards available either in ISO standards or in terms of UN standards. So it may be the local regulators will have some standards. So for example, if you are talking about home HR systems, probably your local country regulations may have key guidelines on what kind of data you need to keep and where you need to keep such data and where you need to communicate. And if you are suppose in the sales, you may have some kind of associations which gives us information on what kind of information you need to track. And if you're particularly in sales, you may have ISO standards for invoice or ISO standards for various electronic communications, or it may be UN standards. So it's like based on each country there will be having some standards. And if it's information technology, you may have that data standards, and it also there may be standards like what kind of data formats you are going to use. It could be XML, or it could be if you're just one of the component in the system is mainframe, it could be EDA format. So all these things depends on which system you are working. If you're working in an IT system, you should be able to identify what kind of technology it's using. When you say technology, you may not be very particular about the technology it uses. It's primarily to identify what kind of standards you need to follow. Suppose you are talking to a mainframe system. When I say talking, it means actually when your project is interacting with a mainframe system. In that case, you need to have the mainframe standards for your system to interface, and you also need to be aware of the standards like how your system can talk to the mainframe system. So in any project, if there are two IT systems involved with various technologies, which the technology cannot interact directly, then you need to have some kind of message translation, like the systems talks to each other using messages, and if they do not share the same technology platform, they cannot talk directly. So there will be an information exchange where you get from your project to your surrounding system, and you need to transform your messages to a format that your surrounding system can understand. And similarly, when your surrounding systems communicate to you, you need to translate that message to a format that your system can understand. So at a very high level, this kind of transformation is called message translation. Some organizations use a form terminology called message translation or message translator, or message transformation, or data transformation, or ETL process. So it depends what the terminology used at various organizations. Is that clear? Any doubts till now? Hello? And now we will also see at a very high level estimate. Yeah, please. Any queries?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, and we will also see how to arrive at estimate. Say, suppose you are working on a document, you may have some, when you are in the initial stages of project, you may have some idea of what kind of output you are going to produce, and based on that you can arrive at a tentative time. And always you have to ensure that when you communicate at time, if you brief the timeline or which you brief that SLA, when you say SLA, service level agreements, then it's at your fault. So you should have sufficient time to so that you can complete that particular task. So this is primarily dependent on the project you are working. When I say project, because every project is different in their own aspects. You cannot compare two projects. It may be similar or it may be different, but it may share some kind of similarity, but it may not be exactly the same way or same aspect or same conditions. For example, you are developing a sales system. So sales system for organizations like IBM may be different, and a sales system for organization like HP may be different. But ultimately your system does a function for sales. But based on the organizations which you are going to develop that system or deploy that system, their expectations may vary. So that's why I said no two projects are same, but you may have to carry the learnings from one of the projects, all your projects to your next project so that you can improve. And now we completed one of the aspect of RACA metrics, like how you interact with them or how you track the queries or clarifications or how you track the interactions. And another way of tracking interactions is like having workshops. You can call for workshops and you can have all the points being discussed in the workshop, and you can record in minutes and you can send it out to the stakeholders. That's one way of having the clarifications cleared. When you are in a position to have a workshop of all the stakeholders, that's more beneficial because it gets some kind of privileges from Agile so that your queries are clarified then and there. And any stage, all the clarifications need to be documented so that your stakeholders never goes back from what they have committed. And there are tools available in the market to communicate your minutes. You can, in any minutes, I hope you all are aware of the minutes. At a very high level, it will have information like points, the points discussed in the session, and who confirmed that, and who are the persons who attended that, and date, venue, and that's the details. And you can use an Excel, and for arranging the meeting you can use the meeting tools like available in Outlook, Gmail, or whatever things. And if your stakeholders are spread across geographies, you need to use some of the tools so that you can share audio, video, and your laptop screens with them. And if there is an opportunity for video conferencing, you could also leverage that. So we actually discussed the main activity under conduct stakeholder analysis, how we identify the stakeholder and what are the key components in the stakeholders. I'll also share you a detailed presentation on the points which we discussed today so that you can also keep it as a reference. And I will try to get a copy of the business analyst guide so that it helps you to track the information. And do you have access to any of the BA materials?
Well, you mean apart from the slides you have been showing us?
Yeah.
I haven't got it right now, but yeah, I think there might be something on the internet if I go through, isn't it?
Yeah. So I will also try some of the documents. There are some standards available in Business Analyst because there is an organization which provides some of the standards. PMI organization provides some standards. So it's basically at a very high level some kind of guidelines because, as I said, it's not mandatory for organizations to follow that because it's only set up with high-level guidelines which people in the organization can customize or they can use it as a reference or as a baseline to see what kind of things they need to work on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want us to download those standards and just go through that, or?
I will help you with the standards and so that you can be aware of that because there are two parts of business analysis in an organization. There are one standards and there are some deviations which you are taking into consideration for executing that project.
Okay.
And the real project is always different from your theory because in theory it's you talk mostly about the concepts, but in practice in a project it's a real different world where you have disputes, where you will have various issues, various stakeholders, and it may be far away from the theories. That's why most of the organizations to prefer people who have worked in some kind of projects, so that they, I mean, you have the background of business analysis plus an academic background which support your business analysis, so that you can work on the project quickly.
Okay.
I hope in the last session we had one assignment to share the flow chart for Walmart process, like starting from how you start from home to Walmart and complete the shopping. So probably who are not completed, they can share it with Mark. And for today, we will wind up the session with another assignment. It's about analysis of dependencies at a billing counter. So the scenario is this. You have a billing counter in Walmart and you have customers arriving at the billing counter, and there are various dependencies which need to be taken into consideration on determining this billing counter. It includes anything. Probably I expect you to come out all the dependencies. I would say the more dependencies, that means the more analysis you are done. So it could, for example, it could be starting from the crowd at the billing counter to the staff to the location. It could be anything. So at least you should be able to identify some of the 50 dependencies. And also I'll categorize these dependencies into various categories. Say you can say classify your dependencies according to 1 to 5 on a point of scale 1 to 5. 1 being the lowest priority and 5 being the most critical component. So you can prioritize your dependencies in this way. First thing is you have to identify the dependencies, and then you have to prioritize your dependencies. And why prioritizing the dependencies? Because in any project there are priorities, and say for example you work in a project and you have 1,000 requirements. You cannot do all the 1,000 requirements at one point of time. So you need to identify which are critical and which are the points need to be taken on priority. Like it may be considering like what is the opportunity available in the market, or what is the business opportunity the organization is looking at, or what is the time frame. All these things you have to consider, and you will be arriving at some kind of prioritization. Say you have 1,000 requirements, you may be classifying 100 as most critical and you want to make it available in the next moment or at the earliest possible time. And then you have another set of requirement called not so critical, but it's good to have. And then you may have another set of requirements like, okay, it's just our fancy stuff, it's not critical, so you can have it at any point of time and you can prioritize it at the lowest level. So that's why I asked you to prioritize dependencies, so that in the next session we'll go into the dependencies and the requirements aspects. So how you identify the requirements, and primarily we will look into the requirement analysis part and how to plan such activities. Any queries? Hello.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, when we are talking about dependencies, are we talking about the stakeholders?
Yes, it may be the stakeholders. Stakeholders also may be the dependencies, or apart from stakeholders, you may have other factors also. Suppose you are developing an IT system, you may have dependencies like your IT systems uptime, downtime, or your system's availability. And say for example, you want to communicate that to that system, say every second, but that system is available for receiving such communication only once in 10 minutes. So all these are dependencies.
Okay.
So it's like your stakeholders have some kind of dependencies because they are the person who approves such dependencies. Because in an IT project, you may have different stakeholders representing various components of your system, and they will be physically responsible for that particular component. and your dependencies are signed off or confirmed by your stakeholders. And your stakeholder is one of the dependency, because it's like you can say one is physical dependency, because physical dependency you can say it's primarily the person or authority to confirm such dependencies, and the other one is real dependencies factors. Yeah. Any queries?
No.
So with this, we'll wind up the session today, and we'll meet in the next session with more focus on the requirement analysis. In the meantime, I will share you the material on RSCI and the related process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pradeep. And Pradeep, will you be also reviewing our previous assignment and sending the comments to us?
Yeah, yes, I'll do that, because I received only one of the assignments, and I think it's from you, and I'm expecting the other. Yeah. So I'll be sharing probably by today or tomorrow to Mark, so he will communicate to you the review comments.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Shika. Thank you, Sian, and thank you, Amar. Thank you, Vishnu. So if you have any queries, you can feel free to get in touch with Mark, so that he will share your queries to me.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.